The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, let all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, and trembles at his voice. How great is our God! Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God. And age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. The Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God! Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God. Name above all names, worthy of all praise. My heart will sing, how great is our God. Name above all names, worthy of all praise. My heart will sing, how great is our God. Name above all names, sing with me, how worthy of all praise. And all will see how heart will sing, how great is our
If you've been wondering where Pastor Kim has been for the past little while, he has been on sabbatical. Yeah, what's sabbatical? It means he's just taking a little bit of a break until mid-July. And before he left, he came up to me, and I'm very loosely paraphrasing the conversation we had, but he said, "Jeremy, when I'm gone, you're in charge of picking the summer series for the sermon." And I said to Pastor Kim, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Well, he said to me, "Yeah, why wouldn't that be a problem? I mean, it's just a summer series. How could you mess that up?" Well, I'm here to inform you today that I may have messed it up. Okay, so for July and August, we'll be doing something that's relatively normal. We're going to be considering some parables of Jesus. So that's what we'll be doing in July and August. But for the month of June, we're going to be considering a book that I can guarantee you, this has got a Jeremy guarantee here, that almost none of us do our devotions in. And if we did, it'd be very strange. Of course, the book I'm talking about is Song of Songs. You know what I'm talking about? The book that's got, the famous line, "Your hair is like a flock of goats descending down Mount Gilead." Ladies, if a guy says that to you, that guy's a keeper, all right? Or not, or maybe call the police. I don't really know. There's no doubt that the book of Song of Songs is probably one of the weirder books there in the Bible. For those who are not aware of what the book is it's a love poem. It's a love poem. It's a song that celebrates the love that a husband and a wife share together. We're talking about a romance book. And already you should be struck with how out of place that book strikes us in the Bible of all places. Not only is the subject matter a little strange, not sure what to do with that, but if you've delved into it, God is only mentioned once in the book, and kind of in a little side-handed comment. And the book is never quoted in the New Testament. It makes one wonder, honestly, why we have such a book in the Bible. In fact, people throughout history have struggled with that exact question of what to do with such a book. One individual, and I'll quote him he lived 600 years ago, he said that this book is a lascivious and obscene poem that should be removed from the Bible. Could be a little bit drastic. On the other end, some individuals have said that this book is so holy that it should be called the holiest of all books of the Bible, and only those who are 30 years old or older are able to read it. Also a potentially drastic move there. But I think for most of us, we're kind of in between those extremes, where, we've got our Bible reading plan, we finish Ecclesiastes, and then we've got 8 chapters of I don't know what to do with and then you go to Isaiah, and then you kind of forget about it. It is kind of a strange book. But as I've taught on this book at Mount Carmel for over the years, my appreciation for this book has actually grown exponentially. I've actually grown quite fond of this book. And I think this book actually has something to teach us that is absolutely fundamentally important in a world that is really messed up, especially when it comes to the topic of love. Honestly, this world is not a good place. And I think God gave us this book for a reason. And so, whether you like it or not, for the month of June, that's what we're going to be doing. And if you don't like it, well, July will change it up, so don't worry. So we're going to kind of just dive right into it. But before we do, I'm going to do something slightly different for this short little series. I'm going to have the text of the English Standard Version on the PowerPoint as we progress through it. And I would like it if you followed along in that version. Now, you can do whatever you want, right? I can't tell you to do whatever, but I would encourage you to do that, and there's 2 reasons why I'm encouraging that. One, I think the ESV captures the Hebrew pretty good of this book, which is kind of a complicated book. And so it'd be nice if we just kind of had the same translation as we go through it. But also, if you've read through the book, you will have noticed that as it progresses, you would see titles of individuals who are talking. All right? Some translations will say a title like beloved, or some might say he or she or others, right? Those are not original to the Hebrew. That is added by the translators who are trying to clarify for us who's speaking. And the reason why they're doing that is because in Hebrew, pronouns are different depending on the gender and number of the person you're talking to. So in English, right? In English, we have the pronoun you, right? And when I say you, I could be referring to a man, right? You man, or you woman, or all you people, right? English, we just have the one word. In Hebrew, as in many other languages in the world, there's a specific you for a man, there's a specific you for a woman, there's a specific you for a group of people. They're all different. And based off of clues like this, the translators are trying to clarify, okay, who's speaking here? They can identify in the Hebrew, the English isn't as clear, so that's why they add those titles. But sometimes there's ambiguity that exists, and sometimes the translators don't identify it perfectly. So that's why I'm thinking if we just have one translation, it might make it a little bit clearer as we explore it. But again, you do whatever you think is right. But anyway, so we're going to kind of just dive into this book here. So follow along. I'll have it on the PowerPoint, or follow whatever translation you're using as we consider this book. So it starts off in chapter 1, verse 1. And we get the title of the book here. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. The title tells us that the song that's about to follow outclasses any other song in existence. It stands alone in subject matter, in beauty, and in emotion. It is the song of all songs. Now, this is obviously a little bit of hyperbole going on here, but what the author is trying to do, he's trying to highlight the importance of what is about to follow. And the Song of Songs is Solomon's, which is a very strange way of phrasing this. Because that could indicate that maybe, is it Solomon the author of this book? Like, which is Solomon making him the author? That's potential. But it could also indicate that Solomon is the subject matter of this book. That in some way it is about or for Solomon. Not that it was written by Solomon. And I would suggest that this latter interpretation is the correct interpretation. I don't think this book was actually written by Solomon. In a very real way, this book is written about Solomon. And it's for Solomon. In some way for him even to learn from this book. And I think that's going to become apparent as we go on in this book. So after that short little introduction, we then start to get into the substance of the book. Starts in verse 2. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Your anointing oils are fragrant. Your name is oil poured out. Therefore, the young women love you. So here we get the lovey-dovey language. And we better get used to it because that's pretty consistent throughout the whole book. But our question here is who's speaking? Who's speaking here? As the title helpfully indicates for us, we have a woman who's speaking. And as the story progresses, we're going to find out that this woman will be called the Shulamite woman. What a name. That's not actually her name. It's identifying the region from which she comes. We'll actually never know her name throughout this whole book. But apparently, she's a country girl who comes from a relatively poor family. So she's the Shulamite woman. That's the individual who's speaking here. And she is singing about her beloved. That the love that she shares with her husband is sweeter than anything. That even his name is it's like cleansing oil. And that for right reason do all the ladies love him. So far, so good. But then we get to verse 4, where things take a turn. It says in verse 4, "Draw me after you, let us run. The king has brought me into his chambers." I think it's at this point that a lot of us sometimes we come in with an assumption that this verse is going to contradict. I think most of us, when we go into this book, we assume that this is going to be a story about this Shulamite woman and her husband Solomon. But that's not correct. Indeed, it is a book about the Shulamite and her beloved husband, but Solomon is not her husband. Instead, Solomon is trying to steal the Shulamite from her husband. This is a fundamental point, and it changes how you would understand this book. And it might sound a tad bit strange, right? Because so often we've been told, like, this is the Song of Solomon, right? Sometimes that's even titled The Song of Solomon. That is a story about Solomon and his wife, and that this book celebrates the beauty of monogamous love between Solomon and his wife. But here's the problem, and you should know the problem. From what the Bible tells us, Solomon is a dirty dog. He is a dirty dog. Truly, if this song is celebrating monogamous love, then we've got a real important question to ask. Which wife of Solomon is he talking about? Because, and I quote from 1 Kings chapter 11, Solomon had 700 wives, who were princesses, and 300 concubines. Don't worry about that. Clearly, if you even count the days of the year, this doesn't even make a whole lot of sense. This guy is out of control. Clearly, Solomon, right, he's the paragon of monogamy, the greatest example we have of marital love. Am I right? I don't know if that's ever disturbed you. Has that ever disturbed you? Yeah? How we've got a book that is supposedly celebrating monogamous love, and at the exact same time, we have Solomon here. Literally the worst example of monogamous love that's ever existed. Does that even sound right? That does not sound right. Does not sound right. But you see, I believe this song presents Solomon not as the Shulamite's beloved, her husband, but instead, Solomon is in this book as the king, whose philosophy of love involves taking whatever he desires. Notice again in verses 2 and 3, right? The Shulamite, she extols the love of her husband. You can hear the longing in her voice, and the urgency is understandable because verse 4 is introducing the crisis for us. Draw me after you, let us run. The king has brought me into his chambers. She is expressing a longing to flee with her husband, to escape together, because the king has brought her into his chambers as an unwilling participant in Solomon's ever-increasing harem of women. You see, when a king wants something or wants someone, he gets it. And it doesn't matter if a lady is married, the king gets what he wants. I mean, just consider Solomon's mom, Bathsheba, right? She had no choice when David called for her. He's the king. The Shulamite has been brought into the king's harem, and she does not want to be there. She wants to flee and to be with her husband. But life has put her in a situation that is evil and is against her wishes. And it's this crisis, it's in this crisis that the beauty of this book really starts to show itself here. Because in this book, we're going to see two versions of love battle it together. You're going to have the love as understood by Solomon, and then you're going to see true biblical love as demonstrated by the Shulamite woman. And only one version of love is going to stand the test. Although Solomon was one of the wisest men. This always gets me, right? Solomon was one of the wisest men to have ever lived. By the Bible's own description, he was thoroughly corrupted by a false understanding of love. Thoroughly corrupted. We will see through the Shulamite that true love is not something that can be taken or purchased as if it's some sort of commodity. It can only be freely given. But Solomon's understanding of love is all about taking, about using another with no thought of covenantal faithfulness. No thought at all. So she's been brought into the harem. We then get the latter half of verse 4. We will exult and rejoice in you. We will extol your love more than wine. Rightly do they love you. All of a sudden here, we're getting some plural verbs and plural nouns. Who are these people? I would suggest to you that these are the members of Solomon's harem, the other women who have been taken by the king's power. They are later identified as the daughters of Jerusalem. And what are they doing here? They seem to be enticing the Shulamite to reject and to forget about the love she has with her beloved and to open up and to be shared with Solomon. She would make an excellent addition to Solomon's collection. It's like they're Pokemon or something. These women have been thoroughly indoctrinated and convinced of Solomon's understanding of love. They have been brought up into a system that treats love as a commodity to be bought and sold, and they facilitate this. But it's going to be interesting to note as the song progresses how the view of these daughters of Jerusalem is going to change. And in a very real sense, the author wants us to take the place of those daughters of Jerusalem. It's like as they progress through the song, so we're also supposed to progress through this song. They start off with an understanding of love according to Solomon's ways, and by the end of it, spoiler, they will be thoroughly convinced by what the Shulamite presents. In response to the enticements of the women of the harem, the Shulamite responds in verse 5. I am very dark but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Do not gaze at me because I am dark, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me keepers of the vineyards, but my own vineyard I have not kept. She points out that her sun-weathered skin indicates that she has had a life of work, not of leisure. She has not had the luxury of being able to avoid a life in the fields. She's had to work. She doesn't have enough wealth. Her brothers force her to work. And in spite of that, though, she recognizes she's still lovely. Because for her, in her definition of love, it is not found in money or in social standing. That's not what true biblical love is based in. Anyway, just a little side note there. All this talk, though, about tending to the fields in her most of her life, leads her back to the thoughts of her beloved, whom she describes as a vineyard. The main metaphor that's going to be used throughout the Song of Songs is the metaphor of agriculture. Love is going to be described as a garden or as a flock of animals, which indicates that it's something that needs to be cultivated and tended to. It's not something that if you just let a garden just grow, it'll grow whatever, right? It needs to be cultivated and tended to. And here she laments the fact that she cannot tend to the love of her husband while in the confines of Solomon's harem. And so she calls out in verse 7 saying, tell me, you whom my soul loves, where you pasture your flocks, where you make it lie down at noon. For why should I be like one who veils herself beside the flocks of her companions? She's talking about her situation right in there. She is by the flocks of her companions, that is the king, that is Solomon, and she has to veil herself. She doesn't want to be in this situation. She wants to be with her husband. But then a voice responds in verse 8. If you do not know, O most beautiful among women, follow in the tracks of the flock and pasture your young goats beside the shepherd's tents. I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. But this is not the voice of her beloved. This is the voice of the king, Solomon. And he takes the Shulamite's address to her non-present husband there and tries to redirect her attention to him. He encourages her to follow in the tracks of his flock, that is referring to the women of his harem, and to be with him. Verse 11, the harem members continue to entice her. They say, "We will make for you ornaments of gold, studded with silver." But while they seek to entice her, she reflects on the memory of her beloved, as if the memory is like a sweet-smelling fragrance that is encouraging her during this midst of a terrible, terrible time. She says in verse 12, "While the king was on his couch, my nard," that is, the memory of her beloved, "gave forth its fragrance. My beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh that lies between my breasts." That is something that's so near and close to her. "My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyards of En-Gedi." Something that is sustaining her in the midst of a dead desert. The memory of her beloved is sustaining her through what could quite easily be described as the worst moment of her life. A victim of Solomon's love. And Solomon responds in verse 15. "Behold, you are beautiful, my love. Behold, you are beautiful. Your eyes are doves." He's trying to woo her. But the Shulamite, as if Solomon is not even there, addresses her affections to her husband. "Behold, you are beautiful, my beloved." She's very clear in giving that title. "They're truly delightful. Our couch is green. The beams of our house are cedar. Our rafters are pine. I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valley." This is going to be her consistent practice. With Solomon's advances toward her and professions of love, the Shulamite almost acts as if he doesn't even exist. It's like he's not even on her radar. And she'll consistently redirect her thoughts to her beloved. Her beloved is beautiful to her, no matter what Solomon can try to muster. There we get verse 2. "As a lily among brambles, so is my love among the young women." This is Solomon again. I'm trying to say it the way he probably would be saying it. He's boasting of his love among young women, right? He is boasting of this real dog. And she responds, "As a tree among as an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among young men. With great delight I sat in his shadow, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love." She and her beloved are actually claiming the banner of love, not Solomon. She's actually rejecting everything Solomon is trying to espouse here. But here she is, and Solomon presses on. And so she calls upon the memory of her love of her husband to sustain her. She says, "Sustain me with raisins. Refresh me with apples, for I am sick with love." She is actually in a bad spot. And she needs the memory of the love of her beloved to sustain her in this time. It continues. "His left hand is under my head. His right hand embraces me." It's ambiguous what, in fact, is going on there, but I would say this is still Solomon trying to take what he wants, seeking to awaken something that he has no right to. And this causes the Shulamite woman to solemnly urge the women of the harem, saying, "I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem." And while she's doing this, she's actually talking to us too, right? "I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases." Solomon is playing a dangerous game, trying to awaken love at the wrong time with the wrong person in the wrong way. And that actually concludes the first part of the song. this woman's introduction to Solomon's harem. And Solomon seeking to take something that doesn't belong to him, and this poor country girl standing in his way, refusing to give to Solomon what he has no right to. He's trying to awaken love in the wrong context. Now, will he be successful is the question. And as we progress through the song, we're going to see if he's successful. But consider in the space of just such a few verses what this song has already taught us about the nature of true biblical love. As we've already seen here, already we've got an indication that nobody is immune from a false understanding of love. Solomon was such a tragic figure for this because he, as one of the wisest men that's ever lived, was perfectly situated to lead Israel to fulfill their mission to the world. But instead, false love led him astray. An understanding of love that takes what it wants, and that led him and the kingdom into destruction. And if that does not describe the main way our world understands love, I don't know what else does. Almost everything wrong in our world when it comes to love can be rooted in the idea that love is a commodity that can be taken or purchased, with a sole focus on me and my desires. This philosophy of love has hurt more people than we can even imagine. And even the best and the brightest among us is not immune from such a false understanding of love. You hear about it in the news all the time, but you read it here in the Solomon. That's why Paul's warning in the New Testament, when he says, "Therefore, let anyone who thinks that he stands take heed lest he falls," is a very apt warning. Because if Solomon was not immune, neither are we. And so as we go into this song, it's something that we're going to have to evaluate in ourselves. What do we understand by love? According to this song, love is something that needs to be cultivated, like a garden. And whoever's a gardener here knows that takes work. It takes work. You got to root out the weeds that will grow and would destroy your garden. You have to protect it from predators. You have to have rabbits, not really predators. But honestly, it's something that you have to tend to. It's not just going to happen. You have to cultivate it. And that's something that I think is important, because that involves a self-sacrifice. This is going to be the controlling metaphor throughout the whole book. And that's something that should be controlling our thoughts about it too. And it's something to easily understand. This is like a garden. And so I must cultivate it. I must tend to it. But like the women in the harem, who we are supposed to take their place, we're supposed to that's our place as we're reading this. We've grown up in a world where Solomon's version of love is the air we breathe. It's the air we breathe. A love divorced from covenantal faithfulness that is focused on another, on their good. This is the world we live in, where love is about me getting what I want, about satisfying my desires, and I can take whatever I need to take. I can use another person as a commodity. And like the women of the harem, often maybe even unintentionally, we perpetuate this. Just like the women of the harem, they were perpetuating that with the Shulamite woman. A love that's about taking what you want, about satisfying our desires rather than sacrificing our desires in covenantal faithfulness to another. But the women of the harem are going to change their mind. And that's a great deal of hope for us, because we too can grasp hold of what love truly is. In spite of Solomon's sin against her, the Shulamite woman remains the exemplar of biblical love. And we will see this. Because true love, as identified by the Shulamite woman, can be an absolutely beautiful thing. Or it could be completely ugly, as the way Solomon defines it. It can be the most delightful of things, sustaining the weary in the midst of distress, or it can be the most vile of things, when love is awakened in the wrong place at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. So as we progress through this book, we must look to the example of a poor country girl who doesn't have social standing, doesn't have wealth, and yet that doesn't matter, because biblical love is not based on status or wealth. It's based on something more substantial than that. And we'll need to learn from this woman, whom a king could have no power against, as she reminds us that love is not something that can be taken, it's only something that can be freely given. So that's what we're going to be doing for the month of June. Amen? Amen.
Please stand.
I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted. You were condemned. And I'm alive and well. Your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. Amazing love, how can it be that you, my King, would die for me? Amazing love, I know it's true, and it's my joy to honor you in all I do. I honor you. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted. You were condemned. And I'm alive and well. Your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. Amazing love, how can it be that you, my King, would die for me? Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you in all I do. I honor you. You are my King. You are my King. Jesus, you are my King. Jesus, you are my King. Amazing love, how can it be that you, my King, would die for me? Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you in all I do. I
God isn't explicitly mentioned in the Song of Songs. He doesn't need to, because he's there in almost every page. Because this is our benediction here from 1 John. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. In this, the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. Amen. Go in peace.